Spoiler warning, spoiler warning. Doctor Strange.
Where's the red one?
Spoiler warning,
New
spoiler
Rockstars, I'm
warning.
Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, a movie that teaches us all a valuable lesson about what happens when Marvel fans dream too big. The Scarlet Witch will break all your toys and make you watch. Director Sam
Talk to me.
Raimi gave us the MCU's first true horror film that also rewrites the rules of the MCU in so many cool ways. So let's break down this movie scene by scene for the incredible attention to detail and deeper layer of meaning that you might have missed. Also, we have a new Multiverse of Madness inspired latest Obsession shirt. It looks amazing. You gotta get your hands on that one over at newrockstarsmerch.com. So the Marvel Studios title card in this movie has been updated. The shots that previously showed in-game moments have all been replaced with Wanda's Scarlet Witch power-up and WandaVision, and various shots of Doctor Strange from the 2016 film Infinity War and Endgame. The final shot on the M of Marvel Studios is Strange's final scene in the 2016 film, but in the inner top of the R was Wanda's team up with her family in WandaVision. So this is actually the first time anything from a Disney Plus title has made it into the title card, just proving how important Wanda's experience with their kids from that show is to this movie. Also, fun to note that behind Wanda's family in that shot is the Westview Cinema with Oz the Great and Powerful playing, a 2013 movie also directed by Sam Raimi. Oz and its witches definitely have parallels in this movie's story. I'll get to that later. But the film opens in the Gap Junction as Defender Strange races with America Chavez toward the Book of Ashanti, fleeing this ribbony monster marked with runes. Later we learn a puppet marionetted by the Scarlet Witch. America Chavez is a young multiverse hopper from the comics who comes from the utopian parallel, and you'll notice how the opening words exchanged in this film are in Spanish, underlining Chavez's role as the first Latina superhero of the MCU, as well as the first LGBTQ plus superhero. Her star emblazoned jacket has a pride.
With all this, they banned it on, what, 4 different countries? That's just crazy.
Pin on it. On her jacket is also written the phrase "Amor es amor," Spanish for love is love. Now, the Book of Vishanti, also from the comics, is a book of positive counterspells, sharing its name with the seal of Vishanti, the shape formed by the window of the Sanctum Sanctorum. Now, the Gap Junction is later described as a space between universes, and here it's presented as a sacred church-like plane, but now in ruins, as if the damage already done to the fabric of the multiverse in titles like Loki and Spider-Man No Way Home have taken a toll on this place. And this week, Marvel head Kevin Feige confirmed that the multiversal crises of those titles directly set the stage for the crisis of this film. The platform with the book on it has 16 walkways converging out from it, many of them broken off. A cool way of showing how all the universes that connect to this are all back doors leading to this one book, but many of those universes and those pathways have crumbled and eroded. Now, Defender Strange seems at first like the gallant to the goofus that we've known, multilingual, only using defensive spells like freezing and binding, hair tied back in a ponytail like the chillest barista ever. But we learn the constant among all Stranges, a willingness to sacrifice friends. In this case, America. He says, "This is the only way." And in the grand calculus of the multiverse, your sacrifice, before he gets cut off. Both of these lines being callbacks, linking this Strange variant to our Doctor Strange, who after sacrificing the Time Stone to Thanos Infinity War told Tony Stark,
There was no other way.
and recently in Spider-Man No Way Home told these exact words to Peter Parker in relation to the deaths of Norman Osborn and the rest being necessary.
In the grand calculus of the multiverse, their sacrifice means infinitely more than their lives.
But a fatally wounded Defender Strange tumbles with America through a star portal, and the camera work of Sam Raimi and director of photography John Matheson rotate in a really fun way so that we wake up with our Doctor Strange in bed having seen all of this as a dream. Now, this movie actually defines all of dreams as us seeing into the lives of our multiversal selves, a concept that has been explored in real-world metaphysics, but in the MCU poses some interesting questions. Were the nightmares Wanda gave the Avengers in Age of Ultron visions of other universes?
I dreamed I was with Rihanna. Bro, I cannot wait to get to that universe, bro.
Tony's dream that he told Pepper about in Infinity War?
Last night, I dreamt we had a kid. So real. We named him after your eccentric uncle. What was his name?
Right.
Morgan.
Of course, they would eventually have a kid named Morgan, so Tony's dream there likely was an alternate universe. So Strange glances over at his broken wristwatch, the one from the 2016 film given to him by Christine Palmer and broken by robbers outside Camartage, a watch face that he left broken to reflect the unhealable wound of his hands and his mastery of the mystic and the mental over the physical. In this film, the watch symbol evolves to symbolize his forever broken relationship with Christine and how that's actually okay. Strange uses magic to tie his tie, a reminder that his hands are still damaged from his accident in the 2016 film. His hands truly are his unhealable wound. At the wedding, he passes this mom with 2 sons. Just a little echo of the conflict that he's about to face with Wanda, trying to reunite with her sons, who are roughly the same age. Dr. Nick West returns to the 2016 film and reveals he too dusted in the blip and lost 2 cats and, oh yeah, a brother too. He ponders if there could have been any other path Strange might have taken in Infinity War, and by having to think about this, Strange faces that his sacrifice play of the Time Stone, while it eventually led to the Avengers being able to fix things, sort of, in Endgame, it also left survivors living with the emotional toll of that conflict. And in Wanda's case, Thanos using that same Time Stone to render her heartbreaking killing of Vision meaningless. Strange turns a glass of water into wine, friggin' Jesus over here, also reminding us of when he refilled Thor's beer mug in Ragnarok. Really the best way to use magic, if you ask me. Strange apologizes, saying that he made sacrifices to protect Christine, but that he's glad she's happy. Really, this whole movie is a tug of war between...
Oh my god, no, wait. I want to eat over this, because I'm looking at my sandwiches, and I've not ate it yet. Hold on. Give me a second. Hold on.
Word around town. be a driver for you on a ride, but when I finally see you, all I wanna see is right hand, right knee, left knee. Make that ass wave, make that ass jet ski. What? I don't know why the fuck niggas tryna test me. What? I'm just all about my goals like a bestie. What? I'm just all about my goals like I'm Messi. What? Being messy, shit will not impress me. What? I could never be a man, I'm your bestie. What? And I never liked you niggas, so don't text me.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
Sacrifice on one hand and happiness on the other. Our heroes begin this movie thinking that sacrifice
Why'd you
comes
play
at the
this?
cost of personal happiness, but must learn by the end of the film that sacrifice and what we think we want is really how we find deeper fulfillment and inner peace. Strange hears a commotion outside and tugs his red pocket square, revealing it as his cloak of levitation. And he would not believe the shit I got in trailer.
That came out his pocket?
That pocket square was his cloak. I love how he summons it in free fall, making this his version of Tony Stark being caught by the Mark 7 armor while falling in the Avengers film. Now, this beast is initially invisible, similar to how the supernatural forces of Moon Knight are initially invisible to onlookers, but Strange decloaks it to reveal the squid monster of Gargantos, a lesser-known comics foe to Namor the Submariner. And I love how the animators use his single eye to characterize him. His surprise when Strange dismantles a bus, his eyelid crease to show anger, his pupil dilation when Strange severs his tentacle, and of course, the look of oh shit when the eye is about to get skewered. Now, Danny Elfman's score charges this whole film with a madcap, feverish energy, and here he uses some great horns.
Look at the ant. Apparently this nigga right here, kept on running in the same spot for like that whole scene.
Evoking Masorgi's Night on Bald Mountain, aka the Fantasia devil music.
A bit. I bet that.
The back of the bus has an ad for La Llave Coffee, unlock a better day. La Llave being Spanish for key, a hint at Strange's upcoming quest to use his watch to unlock the back door, and also this Spanish-speaking superhero being the key to his multiverse. Also nearby is an ad for The Magic, a celestial tea, and when Strange jumps on a taxi, there's a sign behind him for Stan Lee's, which might be a nod to Stan Lee, whose real name was Stanley Lieber, and the 2008 Hulk movie paid tribute to him with Stan Lee's Pizza. Wong shows up to try to restrain Gargantos. Gargantos uses one of his suction cuffs to detach his kunai, maybe showing how he does have some defensive moves against the kinds of attacks
Jay, what the
might
fuck,
hit him
bro?
with. He scales a building, Sam Raimi evoking his sequence with Doc Ock scaling the building in 2004's Spider-Man 2. Meanwhile, back at the wedding, behind Christine and Charlie is a cameo by this movie's screenwriter, Michael Waldron. Strange uses his giant remote hands to use a lamppost to javelin Gargantos in the eye and then pops that eye out with its connective tissue looking a lot like Sam Raimi's hilarious flying eyeball in Evil Dead 2. Strange and Wong mention their recent deal with Spider-Man in No Way Home, and America asks if he shoots webs out of his butt, referencing how Tom Holland Peter and Andrew Garfield Peter were both pretty grossed out by how Tobey Maguire Peter's webbing came out of his body, a production design choice that was actually made by Sam Raimi in that initial series.
Like, does it just come out of your wrists, or does it come out of anywhere else?
Only the wrists.
Now wait, didn't Strange and Wong forget about everything after that movie's final memory wipe spell? Well, not exactly. They only forgot who Peter Parker is. They still remember a masked Spider-Man being part of their history. Like, notice here, they never call him Peter Parker and aren't really sure how his webbing works, just to further prove that he's just back to being a stranger to them, but they still know of a Spider-Man existing in this universe. America shows them Defender Strange's corpse on the Sanctum roof, and Strange buries him up there saying that he's, quote, buried worse, and I'm dying to know who else in Strange's life that he has buried and where. Now, they realize that the matching runes on the two beasts was witchcraft, and so we return to Wanda's kitchen in Westview using the same WandaVision episode 2 Bewitched inspired intro
My
music.
question about this movie is,
in this kitchen they have a hamster cage labeled
in WandaVision, they made the white Vision. How come that nigga never hopped in the movie at all? If this is about Vision, how come this nigga wasn't in the movie?
Old Max, maybe short for Maximoff, replacing poor Sparky the dog. Billy and Tommy return here, back to wearing the same red and green colors as Wiccan and Speed do in the comics. Wanda wakes up from this dream alone in her bed, and I love how the warm golden color tone of the room shifts to a colder gray as she sits up. Just another example of dreams being windows into her alternate selves. Then Wanda prunes branches in an apple orchard. Just really cool symbolism here. She says apples eventually, as they haven't yet borne fruit, as her efforts to produce a life with her sons has also been fruitless. She prunes errant branches, paralleling the ways He Who Remains in the TVA would prune branch timelines to exert control over the multiverse. Kind of like how Wanda has been using the Darkhold to X off universes without her sons in them. And these being apples definitely reminds us of the poisoned apple of the Witch Queen of Snow White, which actually gets a cameo later on in this film. Strange says the flowers smell real, and Wanda claims she put reality warping witchcraft behind her after Westview, yet even here the simulation seems real enough to nearly fool Strange. They chat.
What do you know about the multiverse?
Viz had his theories. He believed it was dangerous.
And then she drops the branches in a crate labeled Volkers or Volkers. Now in the comics, Wendell Volker is an academic who, along with Reed Richards, discovers that Baron Zemo has traveled back in time in a 2007 Thunderbolt story. I don't know, maybe this is on a Sokovian estate that Wanda has overtaken temporarily, somewhere close to that mountain cabin we saw her in. Wanda says there are other Avengers, and Strange mentions the Archer with the Mohawk and several bug-themed crime fighters, of course referring to Hawkeye, Ant-Man, the Wasp, Spider-Man, and possibly now the Scarlet Scarab from Moon Knight. And he says,
We'll get you back on the lunchbox.
there actually is a vintage Marvel superheroes lunchbox with Spider-Man, Cap, and Thor on the front, Fantastic Four on the back, and on the sides, Scarlet Witch, Daredevil, and Yellow Jacket. Wanda mistakes using America's name when Strange hadn't yet. So she drops the illusion, that red hex looking just as it did when it warped the structures of Westview and WandaVision. All of this coming from the Darkhold, Marvel's Book of the Damned, which Wanda got from the witch Agatha Harkness in WandaVision. This whole dead landscape is likely near that mountain cabin. From the WandaVision post-credit scene, all the plants now rotting more and more as the Darkhold corrupts the landscape. And actually in the background of this burnt orchard are the ruins of some structure. That was probably what the large house was when the illusion was up. That structure might be the cabin she was in the WandaVision post-credit scene. Wanda's Scarlet Witch wardrobe has evolved since we last saw it in WandaVision. Scratches radiate from the heart region, showing how her fracturing of reality all stems from a broken heart. And the stitching on her collar leaves an opening in the shape of Vision's Mind Stone, reflecting how that heartbreak began when she had to shatter her love's mind in Infinity War. Wanda says America's sacrifice would be for the great.
Nah, come on, bro. That is a crazy comparison. And he might be right.
Good. Which Strange says is the justification of their enemies, but it's also essentially what Defender Strange told America. So when Wanda criticizes Strange for giving up the Time Stone in Infinity War so that Thanos could render her heartbreaking sacrifice to her vision pointless, she's totally right. Strange is a hypocrite.
That doesn't seem fair.
Back at Kamar-Taj, Wong explains that the Scarlet Witch was prophesized to either rule or annihilate the cosmos, recalling what Agatha read from the Darkhold.
Your power exceeds that of the Sorcerer Supreme.
Nigga threw that nigga off a mountain easily.
It's your destiny to destroy the world.
Kamar-Taj mounts its defenses. Master Amir returns in the 2016 film, and we meet Sarah, likely based on Wong's romantic partner of Sarah Wolf in the comics, and the Minotaur Sorcerer of Rintra, also from the comics. Sorcerers from the
That nigga got 5 minutes of screen time. And that nigga's supposed to be OD.
Kong and London sanctums join them. Remember, the 2016 film established the 3 sanctums of Earth being in New York, London, and Hong Kong. And behind that one guy, the portal to London has one of the city's signature red phone booths, because that always means London. Wanda arrives with a dark cloud, similar to the Wicked Witch of the West attack on the Emerald City, writing "Surrender, Dorothy," and smoke. This being
one thing I hate about this is that there's a lot of great heroes in this
so she
that died unexpectedly.
Actually, you can map this whole movie over the Wizard of Oz.
And I hope to God, like in
road,
another universe, that
Defender
they come
Strange
back.
being the brainless scarecrow who ends up
time.
wobbling around puppeted. Our Strange, the heartless Tin Man who cuts. Wong, the lion who gets his nerve. The Illuminati, of course, the great and powerful Oz, ultimately proving to be total liars. Variant Christine, Glinda the Good, the great.
This whole shit right here, this introduction, besides Reed Richards, was hella corny. And Charles Xavier. Peggy Carter, fucking corny. Miss Marvel, corny. Black Bolt, eh.
Powerful Oz, ultimately proving to be total liars. Variant Christine, Glinda the Good Witch, who ultimately teaches Strange that there's no place like his home reality. I mean, The Wizard of Oz is one of the coolest, scariest, and most visually inventive films of all time. Any multiverse movie is right to follow its lead. Wanda probes the Kamar-Taj barrier and then finds a sneakier way in by whispering into the mind of one sorcerer, similar to how she dismantled the Avengers in Age of Ultron by implanting visions in their temples and just freaking them out. She blasts the hell out of Kamar-Taj, all of its artillery and its archers, leaving one poor sorcerer sorcerer in pain that she just obliterates, which seems
Black Bolt was fire, but I didn't know who Black Bolt was in the first place. I was like, who the fuck is that nigga?
all of its artillery and its archers, leaving one poor sorcerer in pain that she just obliterates, which
When I seen that death, bro, I was like, no way this shit is PG-13, bro. If they made this rated R, this would have been way worse.
seems cruel at first, but the guy was
Way
also in
worse.
a lot of pain. You could also read as an act of mercy. Strange traps Wanda in a mirror dimension trap that ticks down with mechanical music box music until the shards jab out at her. At this point, Wanda's fingertips have turned black, the way Agatha's did in WandaVision when she used magic derived
black
from
fingers.
Darkhold. They retreat into the inner chamber where the camera glides and distorts as doors slam. Raimi shoots all of this with the same claustrophobia and external evil trying to break in that made the Evil Dead so fun. And like the possessed woman there, we only see the demon hands reaching up to grab people, which is also the kind of imagery Raimi used to Drag Me to Hell. Strange realizes Wanda is using reflective surfaces to get in.
I said this whole thing is spoilers, bro. I said I gave y'all niggas 2 weeks. I was supposed to give y'all 1 week, but I gave y'all niggas 2 weeks.
And as they rush to cover each mirror and puddle, on the first one that Strange covers, for just a few frames, Raimi sneaks in one of Wanda's eyes glaring up at Strange. Ugh, creepy. Wanda's eye returns to scare America, and then her hand reaches out through the gong as she
That was
crawls
disgusting.
in with distorted limbs,
This right
looking
here
like
was
the girl from
disgusting.
The Ring. Strange unleashes serpents from his hands, looking similar to the ones Supreme Strange absorbed and weaponized in What If Episode 4, and Wanda begins to drain America.
Now, one thing I can applaud my hands to. One thing I can applaud my hands to is that Doctor Strange used way more magic than he did in the first movie, and that's likely. Like, he used way more magic in this movie than all the movies that he appeared.
America's power, so Strange dives into America and
was
they
low-key
tumble
fire.
through the multiverse, and it is insane. They pass a dimension with 3 cloaked heads. These are the faces of the Living Tribunal, the ultimate legal cosmic entity in Marvel lore who oversees natural law of the multiverse, with 3 faces representing necessity, equity, and revenge. I like how here they are not on the same head, just 3 different heads. Maybe a way this universe in a 4th dimensional space shows how they would look from a 4th dimensional being. In the Infinity Gauntlet comics, the Living Tribunal acquitted Thanos for snapping away half of all life, and the Infinity War writer said that they actually drafted a scene where Strange and Thanos would have faced the Living Tribunal during their wizard duel. Then they enter this cosmic realm with all these curved paths that snake back toward a glowing source. Kind of looks like a mix of the Celestials, World Forge, and Eternals, but I think we might be seeing Cerebro, Professor X's famous way of connecting with all the minds of mutants. Then they fall through a freaking beehive filled with bees lined with
Hey, Chef.
honeycomb. Now we later learned in this movie it was a bee landing on America's finger that first triggered her fear and opened the star portals that took her moms from her. Is this what the
good,
hexagons
Chef?
and the beekeeper from WandaVision were all about? Can someone tell me, please? Then they're underwater beside a coral
Last
reef, and some of those
person I would
fish
give
swim
bits
out
to
with them
tonight.
back in the open air New York,
Appreciate
where
the
they
2
pass
bits, bro.
taxis with
W
the
bits,
ads
chat.
Grindhouse
Appreciate it.
Releasing, which is a company that remasters cult films that partnered with
Awesome.
Sam Raimi to
Cool.
restore the Evil
Chillin'.
Dead, and it's run by Bob Morosky, who also edited
Chill.
this movie. The next universe is a grid of techie tubes that's actually filled with Stark drones from Spider-Man Far From Home. Perhaps it's a reality where they overthrew humanity. Then a hellish space filled with bones. True fire and brimstone here. Strange runs into a pile of skulls. Other skeletons are climbing lampposts made out of spines. All the buildings are made of bones. I mean, I would say this is just the MCU hell, but this movie also shows us like multiple possible hells. And Moon Knight did just explain that the MCU afterlives of the Egyptian underworld and the Wakandan ancestral plane are actually part of the same realm, just subjectively taking the form of whatever the believer believes. So these various hells might be part of that same belief-oriented afterlife system. Next, a universe with a T-Rex fighting a Triceratops. Then an animated universe with some
This
marching
right
band
here,
music.
bro.
Now,
This
is not
was
exactly
fire.
the animated style
This was
from
fire
What
as
If,
fuck.
and they do pass that Jonas and James sign, so this is
That
actually the
was
same
fire
spot
as
where they
fuck.
fought Gargantos. Then this interesting reality with the wreckage
You're
of
working
some
right now?
propeller plane with green flames.
Nice.
I don't know, I thought maybe
Wa-
this
watch
could
me
be
while
the
you work.
Valkyrie plane from the first Cap film if
fuck
it
the
had made it
customers.
to its intended target of New York. Then a reality where everything takes a cubic form if it had been flame Gargantos. Then this interesting reality with the
customers.
wreckage of some propeller plane with green flames. I don't know.
So
I
every
thought
time
maybe
I
this
bite,
could
my
be
nose
the
gets
Valkyrie
itchy.
plane from the first Cap film if it had made it to its intended target of New York. Then a reality where everything takes a cubic form. I just love how the break line between the blocks separates on the teeth of Strange's open mouth. Then they shift into sloshing paint, a reality where America says she's been trapped in before, making it really hard to eat. Then I love this, an old-timey film desaturated with wear on the celluloid, showing 1930s New York, Model Ts, the Brooklyn Bridge, and a blimp overhead. This is the world that
Back
Steve
when y'all
Rogers and Bucky
actually
grew up
fun
in. Then this
lit.
interesting alien setting that also looks
Or
a bit
better than
ancient
other
because it
states.
includes a Stonehenge
Hey, yo, them just
configuration.
ass.
Now remember, Thor: The Dark World suggested Stonehenge was part of a coordinate layout to triangulate the convergence. So maybe this is the alien society who helped lay out those coordinates. Then two more
you have your
futuristic
own
looking
office?
realities. Then a rocky volcanic setting with lava
fuck?
rivers looking a lot like Mustafar from the Star Wars universe. Actually, in a similar montage in What If Episode 8, Ultron Infinity and the Watcher, that also looked a lot like Mustafar. And they land in Dimension 838, a utopian Manhattan covered with plant life and wind turbines, all built into the skyscrapers. The Empire State Building has a waterfall coming from it. This actually seems like the direction 616 Manhattan was going in the MCU, with Far From Home revealing a new atrium constructed into the Avengers Tower, and various Fantastic Four hints at the ground level. All the advances of this reality were almost certainly innovations of Reed Richards. They're on the roof of the 838 Sanctum. You can actually see the same greenhouse and mound where Defender Strange was buried back in 616. Strange said he had been on weird trips before, of course referring to the similar multiverse montage from the 2016 film. The world building of 838.
What I liked about Everything Everywhere All at Once is that their concept of the multiverse was the closer your universe was to you was just minor adjustments, and the farther the universe was away from you was just like drastic major, which looked like which whole life, which is easy, bro. I gotta rewatch that movie. I watched it last.
Is really cool. All the citizens wear monochromatic colors, which might just be a hint at the cold functionality of this society, the emphasis being on natural beauty over the artificial kind of beauty of fashion. And just visually for the sequence, it helps Strange and America stick out like sore thumbs here. Also, a little detail I thought was interesting. If you look around, pretty much everyone is carrying an umbrella that might be connected to those rainbow-colored clouds overhead, which might be an indicator that in this universe, rain and weather patterns
Your office better be
actually
as big as my
artificially
room, no cap.
controlled, scheduled on clockwork, coordinated by Reed Richards, maybe by Aurora Monroe's storm as well. A measure that they take to help combat climate change, ensure plant life is properly hydrated, and the people who live here just kind of have to deal with rain being part of their lives all the time. Of course, the traffic colors are reversed: green for stop, thus the X's, red for go, thus the arrows. Now, the fact that 838 proceeds on red when we would stop does foreshadow how the foolish Illuminati is gonna proceed on the Scarlet Witch when they definitely should not. Our man Bruce Campbell cameos. Sam Raimi's star from the Evil Dead films, who cameoed in all 3 of his Spider-Man movies. And all those characters were actually planned to be Mysterio, Quentin Beck, in Sam Raimi's 4th Spider-Man film before Sony canceled it. Here Campbell's playing Pizza Papa, a vendor who sells pizza balls!
Time to deliver a pizza ball!
Strange curses his hand to punch himself in the face for 3 weeks! A nod to Ash's cursed hand in Evil Dead 2. A memory lane bank reveals the flashbacks of Christine giving Steven that watch, and America's origin losing her mother's in the Utopian parallel. But in the comics, this was not America's fault, or even the Bee's fault, and really her mothers sacrificed themselves and ended up disintegrating to becoming part of the universe. But here in the MCU, it's hinted that her moms might still be alive. So they arrive at the 838 Sanctum and the statue of Supreme Strange, which has been built out into the street from the sidewalks. The cars have to go around it and all look at it and pay respect. The plaque reads, Dr. Stephen Strange gave his life defeating Thanos. We express eternal gratitude to Earth's mightiest hero. Earth's mightiest hero, of course, the nickname for the Avengers in comics. There's a rare bookshop on the other side of the street called McCloud's, which could be a nod to comics writer Bob McCloud, who co-created The New Mutants with Chris Claremont. Mordo returns to the 2016 film. Strange says Mordo dedicated his life to trying to kill him, referring to that movie's post-credit scene where Mordo turned against all sorcerers.
Too many sorcerers.
We never got to see any real conflict between them since that moment. Mordo
apparently, at the start of the movie, Wanda and him were supposed to link up, and his head was supposed to get chopped off, so it doesn't even matter.
confirms Darkholds exist in every universe and explains the concept of dream walking, projecting one's consciousness into one's alternate self. And over this, Raimi shows cross-dissolving montages of Wanda's ritual. The visuals evoke the dream sequence of Rosemary's Baby. There's surrealism, superimposed shots, close-ups of the eyes. And I love how Danny Elfman scores this with rock. We hear some drums, electric guitar. Really, this is a sound of witchcraft in the 90s to me, like The Craft, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I very much dig it. But Mordo drugged the tea with green powder that also powers the cuffs, called the Sands of Nisanti, a spell from the comics that prevents the usage of magic for 3 minutes. Wanda dream walks into another universe's Westview house. The camera voyeuristically glides in and peeks out from behind the staircase. These point of view shots evoking John Carpenter's opening shots of Halloween. The way Wanda creeps in here is very much like a stalker, like Michael Myers. Now, Billy and Tommy are watching on the TV a black and white cartoon of Oswald and Hortensia, a 1928 Walt Disney short called The Skyscrapers. Now, Walt Disney made Oswald shorts for Universal before contract dispute led to him launching Mickey Mouse and Steamboat Willie. So Oswald has actually gained a cult following over the years as the Mickey who could have been. And I just love how he shows up here in this alternate universe. Now, secret cameos and surprise twists are pleasant surprises when you're watching a new Marvel movie, just like getting a discount. See you later.
Have a good day at work. Don't stress out. Honey, please give me like $5,000 million.
Today's video. A birthday photo of Wanda turns to stare at her, especially creepy since the champagne is still frozen mid-spill. The peas roll around on the plate, evoking the way the food squirmed around in the kitchen in Poltergeist. An ocean churns in the coffee cup, an early sign of the incursions that Dream Walking risks. An ocean similarly crashed through the post-incursion universe of Sinister Strange. And Dream Walking Wanda takes control of this Wanda, giving us this chilling moment when Elizabeth Olsen looks directly at the camera, breaking the fourth wall, as if to tell all of us, I see you. Just a really spooky horror trope that we've seen in the closing shots of horror films like Psycho and Paranormal Activity. Sarah breaks Wanda out of this dream-walking state by stabbing the Darkhold, and Sarah burns, crying a single tear, so Wanda turns to torturing Rintrah.
I did not understand her role in the movie. Like, her role in the movie was just to die. I don't know why it made it so sentimental. Like, no one's gonna have an emotional connection.
The others to get Wong to confess that the Darkhold was actually a copy of the spells carved into the walls of the temple on Mount Wundagore, which in the comics was a place where the demon Chthon inscribed the spells that were eventually drafted into the Darkhold book. This is also the mountain where, in some comics, Wanda and Pietro were actually born, in the castle of the High Evolutionary. We got a nod to that comic backstory in WandaVision with the sighting of Bova Milk, Bova being one of the High Evolutionary's Annie men who nursed Wanda and Pietro. Wundagore Mountain is where Chthon initially cursed Wanda as a baby, though in the 616 MCU, WandaVision established that she was born to Irina and Oleg Maximoff in Sokovia. Though in that flashback, Wanda showed she already had, as a girl, low-level probability hex capabilities. So it remains to be seen if the MCU will trace that back to Chthon's curse, or if they're going to define Wanda as a mutant, or both. Wong takes Wanda to that temple, where the walls are carved to look exactly like the Scarlet Witch page of the Darkhold that we saw in WandaVision episode 9. This temple's guarded by hulking creatures that may be based on the N'Garai, Chthon's Elder Spawn minions from the comics, but when they take a knee, Wanda realizes that the chamber isn't a tomb, but a throne. The altar she stands on is actually carved with that same horned head figure as we saw on the Darkhold cover. This is perhaps the horned form of Chthon from the
Stranger
comics.
Things actually
Meanwhile, variant Christine explains that they are in Dimension 838, and she has designated Strange's home universe as 616. 616 is the numerical designation of the primary universe in the comics, and until now, the MCU has really been considered Earth 19999999, based on a joke by Kevin Feige that he planned for the MCU to run for that many years. But now, it is firmly codified as 616, which was hinted at in the TVA's film strip in Loki Episode 1, and an Easter egg on a storage locker in Endgame, and interestingly, Mysterio's line from Far From Home.
There are multiple realities, Peter. This is Earth, Dimension 616. I'm from Earth 833.
Now, Quentin Beck was lying in that moment. He was reciting a script written by Guterman, so it's just a total uncanny coincidence that they chose the correct numerical designation. Or maybe Guterman is a TVA agent. No, probably not. Now, Christine compares 616 Steven to 838 Steven using his hand injuries, a kind of multiversal fingerprint. So, like for Peter Parker, losing a parent figure and the with great power quote are absolute constants for those variants, their hand injuries are the constant. And on that screen, you can see Steven's cell is D23, which is a Disney Easter egg. D for Disney, 23 for 1923, the year Walt Disney founded his animation studio. Christine says that this is the Baxter Foundation, a nod, of course, to the Baxter Building, headquarters of the Fantastic Four in the comics. Strange speculates that this could be part of the Avengers, or S.H.I.E.L.D., or Hydra. Hydra was an organization that was tracking Strange since 2014's Captain America Winter Soldier.
What targets? You, Bruce Banner, Stephen Strange, anyone who's a threat.
That being the first time we heard Stephen Strange's mission in the MCU. But Mordo declares,
The Illuminati will see you now.
The Illuminati in the Marvel Comics is a 6-member group of leaders representing different super factions. You got Tony Stark, leader of the Avengers, Charles Xavier, leader of Mutant Kind, Reed Richards, leader of the Fantastic Four, Doctor Strange, Sorcerer Supreme, Black Bolt, leader of the Inhumans, and Namor, king of Atlantis. As is the case here, though, their meddling often gets in their own way. Serving the Illuminati are these Ultron sentries, which are actually voiced by actor Ross Marquand, who voiced Ultron in What If and Red Skull in Infinity War. Now, the Baxter Foundation HQ is in Central Park of 838 Manhattan, and the interior is modeled on the lobby of the British Museum of London. Mordo introduces the 838 Illuminati lineup, including himself, naming himself Baron Carl Mordo, the character's name from the comics. Strange dodges the Union Jack shield of Captain Carter, leader of the 838 Avengers, played by Haley Atwell, looking just as she does in What If. So presumably
when I tell you my theater was so quiet when they got introduced until until Reed Richards.
There are other Avengers in this 838 universe. Then there's Captain Marvel, Maria
Corny.
Rambeau, Defender of the Cosmos, Lashana Lynch returning from the 2019 Captain Marvel film, presumably from a history where Maria, not Carol Danvers, was irradiated by that light speed engine. Then Black Agar Boltagun, aka Black Bolt, leader of the Inhumans and keeper of the Terrigen Mist. Anson Mount reprises the role from ABC's short-lived Inhumans series. Now, Inhumans are superpowered genetic experiments created by the Kree who live on the moon. Black Bolt's voice releases a powerful sonic blast, so the guy rarely talks. Here, he's seen with his tuning fork headgear from the comics. Terrigen Mist, meanwhile, is the Kree technology that creates Inhumans via cocoon. We actually saw this process with Quake in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And Terrigen Mist may tie into Miss Marvel, since that is how Kamala Khan gets her powers in the comics, though the Disney Plus series may be going in a different direction.
I am
then, of
not
course,
watching the
Reed
series.
Richards, aka the Elastic
watching
Mr.
it.
Fantastic of the
way
Fantastic
that
Four,
they
played
ruined
by
the way that they
Fantastic
ruined the hero,
Dreamboat John
the
Krasinski.
shorty.
I like how he teleports in via the
Ass.
square portal, which is a completely new kind of tech than we've seen in the MCU. Seems very much like the kind of tech Richards and Dr. Doom use in the comics. Strange asks if the Fantastic Four, quote, charted in the 60s, of course, comparing them to the Beatles, similar to the way Bruce Banner talked about the Avengers in Infinity War.
Broke up? Like a band? Like the Beatles?
And the way Toby and Andrew thought the Avengers was a band in No Way Home.
Wait, you don't have the Avengers? Is that a band? Are you in a band?
Now, Strange is probably just joking, but Ant-Man director Peyton Reed did pitch doing a Fantastic Four movie set in the 60s, like the Beatles movie A Hard Day's Night, and many of us have speculated that the Fantastic Four could have existed in the 60s of the 616 MCU, contemporaries of a younger Hank Pym, the way that in the Silver Age comics, the Fantastic Four and Hank Pym Ant-Man all kind of work together. Now, Reed explains that Strange's arrival at 838 risks an incursion, which is a term in Marvel Comics for when universes collide, like a series of incursions between
When
Earth
Secret
616
Wars
and the
comes
Ultimate
out,
universe of 1610, the universe of Miles Morales, is what led to the 2015 Secret Wars event, when all these variant heroes and villains met in Doctor Doom's battle world, which is why many believe that the MCU might be headed toward a similar event in a fifth Avengers
This shit
crossover
about to
film,
go
the villain of which,
stupid.
in this case, might be Kang the Conqueror. Because we saw what may have been incursions in the MCU in Miss Minute's intro video in Loki Episode 1, and Kevin Feige just confirmed that Loki and Sylvie killing that Kang variant, He Who Remains, led to the sacred timeline unraveling into various incursions, and that's really what set the stage for the crisis of this movie. And remember, the original Kang variant, Nathaniel Richards, was a 31st century descendant of Reed Richards, so really this is all connected. And of course, the sixth member of this Illuminati floats in,
Wait, he's white and he's black. What the fuck?
Professor Charles Xavier, with Patrick Stewart returning for the Fox X-Men franchise.
We should tell him the truth.
But rather than the exact character from those films, which do have their own convoluted timeline in which Charles dies in Logan, this Charles has a yellow hover chair, a green suit, the blue and black tie, looking exactly as he does in the 90s animated series. Actually, if you listen closely, the music of this moment is Ron Wasserman's theme music from that series. Da-na-na-na-na-na. Also, when they introduce Captain Carter, they bring in Alan Silvestri's Captain America theme. Now, there is one more chair that's left empty on this Illuminati dais, suggesting some past seventh member, or just an extra chair that they keep open. Now, those Ultron sentries might suggest a variant Iron Man, since it was his tech that led to this appearance of Ultron in the 616 MCU. Then again, in the comics, it was Hank Pym who created Ultron, so that seventh seat could be his. But also in the comics, the Illuminati originally reached out to T'Challa, the Black Panther, who ended up deciding not to join the group. That might be his seat, and the Ultron sentries were just created by Reed Richards. So they finally revealed the truth.
They're not gonna go
during
back to the
their
universe
Infinity
at
War
all.
conflict with Thanos,
We'll never know.
838 Steven.
Oh shit! Wait, that's actually him.
So they finally revealed the truth that during their
Oh no, they fucked this nigga up.
Infinity War conflict with Thanos, 838 Steven used the Darkhold to try to find a solution in the multiverse, but in doing so, accidentally caused an incursion that killed everyone in that alternate universe. Now, Reed does say that 838 Steven never told him the details, so there's probably more to that backstory. Now, Charles uses his telepathy to, thank goodness, show, not tell. Taking us to the day they beat Thanos using the Book of Ashanti, but look closely at Thanos' corpse. Yikes! His double-bladed Uru blade is broken and plunged into his chest. And importantly, his gauntlet does not yet have all the stones. We see the Power Stone, Space Stone, Reality Stone, and Soul Stones, but the Mind Stone is missing, which tells us that Vision may still be alive in 838. 838 Strange's fingertips are black, showing the Darkhold's corruption on his soul, just like we saw on the fingers of Wanda and Agatha. Black Bolt whispers, "I'm sorry." And I like how his voice echoes louder and louder, with Anson Mount recording multiple versions of this line, building up to a complete shout. Just a cool way of showing how that sonic blast obliterates Strange. Wanda uses the Darkhold Temple to dreamwalk into 838, Wanda's house. I like that little detail of her knocking over the dominoes. But this also confirms to us that in the 838 dimension, Wanda had that perfect life with Billy and Tommy. So the Mind Stone being missing.
Oh my god, this stupid ass song. Them niggas were screaming. Them niggas were singing the ice cream song. Bro, I never felt so weirded out.
In the 838 dimension, Wanda had that perfect life with Billy and Tommy. So the Mind Stone being missing from Thanos' gauntlet and Vision's survival might have been the key difference there. So this possessed Wanda attacks the Baxter Foundation, and Charles tells Stephen to get to the Book of Ashanti, and he says,
"Just because someone stumbles and loses their way doesn't mean they're lost forever."
Which is a direct quote from 2014's X-Men Days of Future Past, when Charles said this line to his younger self.
Just because someone stumbles, loses their way, it doesn't mean they're lost forever.
Now that movie ended with Charles in his first hover chair we saw in live action film. So who knows, maybe that restored timeline from Days of Future Past didn't lead to Logan, it could have led to this. And then after finishing off the Ultrons, Wanda marches in, covered in their oil like it is blood, recalling that dark moment in Age of Ultron when she ripped out Ultron's heart and just let it bleed that oil. The oil streaks on her face totally evokes Sissy Spacek and Carrie, which totally influences the bloodbath Wanda unleashes here. Also the way her hand bursts out of the darkness later in her mind, reminding us of Brian De Palma's final shot of that movie. Reed says that he has children of his own and that their mother is alive, referring to Susan Storm, the Invisible Woman, and their children, Franklin Richards and Valeria Richards, and confirming that lineage that will one day lead to Nathaniel Richards, Kang. Wanda erases Black Bolt's mouth like Neo in The Matrix, and folks, this is the most horrific death we have seen in the MCU.
That shit was so fire!
Gotta go through it here. Just think about it. Black Bolt does not have to scream. The guy spends most of his time not at all using his vocal cords.
When that nigga skull popped off, bro, I was just like, cause I was not expecting that shit at all, bro. Cause I'm going into this thinking it's a regular PG-13 Marvel movie. This whole nigga's brains spew out, bro.
But it's just the panic of his mouth being erased that rattles him to his core. So he ends up making the worst possible mistake of vocalizing anything. That scream ricochets around his jaw. You can see it glowing on the other side of his skin until it amplifies and amplifies.
Oh my
goes back
god!
Blood
Oh, that shit was so scary.
A bit, and his skull blows out the back, then caving in.
Oh my god, that shit was
disgusting. As his tuning fork flickers out. God almighty. Then Reed makes the mistake of attacking, and Wanda unravels his elastic body into ribbons and then pops his head like a piñata. So then Peggy and Maria jump in, Peggy using jetpack thrusters that she presumably got from Reed. Peggy spits out some blood and then quotes Cat's
I could do this all day. I could do this all day.
But then poor Peggy gets severed at the midsection by her own shield. Actually, if you look closely, after that shield goes through, Peggy is still initially in one piece, but as the camera refocuses on the shield in the foreground, her blurry form in the background slumps forward, but in two halves. And then Wanda collapses a statue on Maria. At least for Maria, it could be an open coffin. I mean, each of these four actors must have been directed
I hated Miss Marvel because Miss Marvels are like, we'll take care of your little witch, and after that, die to the statue. What the fuck?
Maria, at least for Maria, it can be an open coffin. I mean, each of these four actors must have been directed on how to emote their own deaths, but there is no way all these actors were on set with each other or told how each other would die, because they should be screaming in horror. Otherwise, these four must be pretty desensitized to people dying this way. Charles enters Wanda's mind, depicted as a white void where he's able to walk. He wears a black turtleneck, and beyond that door is a pile of rubble, including a TV set playing the intro to WandaVision Episode 1. Air sirens raid in. This rebel's clearly the rebel that Wanda and Pietro were buried under in Sokovia when Stark Warhead landed in their home. But the Scarlet Witch's red cloud closes in and she snaps his neck, making this the third time.
She doesn't even snap his neck. He did. He forgot to mention it.
In their home. But
he doesn't. She doesn't snap his neck.
And she snaps.
She rips his head off. She deadass rips this nigga's head off. Like his top half got ripped off.
His neck, making this the third time we have had to see Patrick Stewart, Charles Xavier, die. Now, all these Marvel heroes coming together to try to stop the Scarlet Witch, who does not care who she hurts as she tries to be with her kids, are plot points inspired directly by the House of M comic event. But whereas that story goes deeper and deeper into X-Men lore, and makes some major moves on whether or not they even exist in reality, this movie's connections to mutant kind stop right here. So Strange American Christine flee as Wanda chases them, her eyes glowing red.
I told y'all niggas, spoiler alert,
from those episodes
1,000 times.
They find the hatch, the the waypoint to the Book of Ashanti, but it is locked, requiring a special key, Strange's wristwatch given to him by Christine. Another absolute element shared by all Stranges. So they get to the Book of Ashanti in the Gap Junction, but Wanda attacks, and a page from the book burns out, showing a star if you look closely. So remember, the Darkhold page showed the Scarlet Witch. This book shows America Chavez's symbol, proof that the girl was destined to be the perfect antidote to the dark sorcery of the Scarlet Witch. And Strange sees this page burn, which is how he knows what to tell America in that final act. Strange and Christine get banished to a post-incursion universe, which slowly melts, that melting looking a lot like the way reality eroded in What If Episode 4 after Strange broke an absolute point. And they pass a floating honey beige 1973 Oldsmobile Delta 88, the same car Sam Raimi puts in all of his movies. It was Uncle Ben's car in the Spider-Man movies and appeared in the Evil Dead series and in Drag Me to Hell. Now you'll notice this incursion universe has two red streaks racing through it, the same color as that looming crescent shape beyond the sanctum stairway. Now kids, what are crescents? Crescents, of course, are formed by the shadow of the Earth on the moon from the light of the sun behind us. So I wonder if this crescent could be this dead world's shadow being cast on the other world that collided into it. Maybe Earth 838, the reality of 838 Strange that collided into this universe, the dimension of Sinister Strange. That could have been the unseen annihilation that the Illuminati referred to. 838 Strange might have used the Darkhold to dreamwalk into Sinister Strange, and Sinister Strange tried to cast him out, and that war between the two dragged their worlds together in a way that killed everyone in Sinister Strange's universe. That could have been the war that he lost, that he was talking about. And the guilt over winning that war might have been what 838 Strange confessed to the rest of the Illuminati. And now these two streaks might represent the lifelines of those two universes, synced, forever parallel, but never touching, yet still way too close. I mean, the creepiest detail about this place is the fact that a freaking field of bones stretches in front of the sanctum. Everyone in this reality died from an incursion, but no human remains are visible anywhere else. That means that these unfortunate souls of this universe fled to the sanctum, looking for sanctuary, begging this Strange to save him, and he watched as they died. Strange brings up their dead sister Donna, whom he says fell in the ice when they were kids. In the comics, Donna drowned after getting a cramp in a swimming pool. Sinister Strange reveals a third eye on his forehead. Now, Strange sometimes has the third eye in the comics as a manifestation of the Eye of Agamotto, a way of showing the mystical sight that the Ancient One referred to when she touched this spot on his head.
Open your eyes.
But in this case, the third eye represents the twisted evil of the Darkhold, the curse of Cthon living on. These two Stranges duel. Sinister Strange's sorcery is purple, the same color of Agatha's magic, the color of the Dark Dimension in Dormammu, which is something that's going to play a very big role as Dormammu's niece, Clea, shows up in the post-credit scene to work with a Strange with three eyes.
These niggas had a musical fight. Like, they used, like, notes from a... They use like, musical notes to fight each other, which was... I guess? I didn't really know how to feel about it. I had no clue what to say about it.
During the fight, Strange grabs the piano, making that same horror music sting that up until now in this movie has meant fear.
I mean, it was cool,
now he weaponizes the fear to lift the music notes off the page, each note making the same note it would if you were to play it on the piano. I love this music duel so much! Sinister Strange blocks the notes by conjuring the 5 lines of a scale, which is how you would
Hey, thank you for the 40 bits, chat
music,
bits.
and forming a new arrangement, which
Welcome
plays
back.
as Johann Sebastian Bach's famous organ chords. Strange launches Sinister Strange out the window, impaling him on the fence like Saruman. But the third eye still opens because the evil lives. So Strange impaling him on the
bodied for real
fence like Saruman. But the third eye still opens because the evil lives. So Strange now uses the Darkhold to dreamwalk into the one Strange still left in 616, the buried Defender Strange, resurrecting the corpse. Now remember, earlier Wong told Wanda that no sorcerer can pass the barrier to Wundagore Temple. So those souls of the damned that attack Defender Strange are not just an obstacle. Using them by turning them into a new cloak is literally the only way Strange could fly over there. This is just a really smart example of what screenwriters call economy of story. Repurposing story elements we thought were just set dressing or characterization or raised stakes, like the Defender Strange corpse, the watch, Strange seeing a star page in the Book of Ashanti, these souls of the damned, and instead giving them new practical functions for the hero to advance. So
yeah, I thought Defender Strange was like the bad guy, but It was just him using his body, was just crazy.
The damned, and instead giving them new practical functions for the hero to advance. So when a bunch of nerds in your movie theater started applauding in this moment, going, yes! It isn't just because we love Sam Raimi's zombie shit. I mean, we do. It's because this moment was a culmination of all these seeds that were planted throughout the movie. Now, when the souls of the damned attacked Christine, she banishes them with the brazier of Bomb Goliath, the same artifact Strange tried to use on Caecilius in the 2016 film.
You don't know how to use that, do you?
Yeah, so that is why Caecilius hesitated. That thing could have banished him to hell. Strange arrives with the damned soul cape, and Wanda says, "Dreamwalking, you hypocrite!" The same thing Caecilius
This is the
shouted
same video?
at the
Yeah,
Ancient
it is.
One when she used dark dimension magic.
Hypocrite!
Now, realizing
Same
America's
one.
power is needed to beat Wanda, Strange repeats.
This is the only way.
So once again, we have looped back to the opening scene. A Defender Strange must once again face this moral quandary of sacrificing America. This time though, America accepts her fate. So why does Strange now make a different choice? What has changed? What makes this Strange different? Well, this Strange trusts America to control her own power because every portal she opened in this film has brought them to where they needed to go. Remember, this is the same Strange who looked at 14,605 paths and found the one correct path for his life. And so, unlike all the other Stranges who are always seeking a better life, including 838 Strange, who looked in a different universe for one, our Strange finally realizes he has gratitude for the path that he is on. Because folks, the
Crispy
true
got his
ideal
mug
of
like
America is not the pursuit of happiness, it's gratitude for what we have. So America punches Wanda first into hell. I love that, that's where she thinks she needs to go. But America learns that the better destination for Wanda is just to give the woman what she wants, her Westview home, where her
What's crazy, they could have ended this shit in 5 minutes if she just gave her what she wanted. The fact that this was like the end, the result of the whole movie was kind of lame.
sons actually see her true nature. Now, based on the other Wanda's bruises, this is actually 838, the same Wanda that she possessed earlier. Interesting how now on the TV is Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Remember, in the alt universe, there was an alt universe Walt Disney short starring Oswald the Lucky Rabbit, but in this one, it's the iconic Walt Disney first feature-length animated film, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Also, remember, a story with an evil witch queen that haunted me as a little kid. So these poor boys are on pins and needles about an evil witch queen coming in through a portal into their living room. And despite being possessed into doing horrible things, this other Wanda forgives the Scarlet Witch, assuring her that these boys will be loved, telling the mother what she needs to hear. And so Wanda collapses the temple on herself and she destroys the Darkholds in every reality. And while it seems like 616 Wanda may be dead, we do still have this other Wanda who was there for all the craziest shit that happened in this movie. A Wanda who, remember, shares this 838 reality with mutants, with the Fantastic Four. So some version
What's
of her-
crazy is this Wanda, people are saying Wanda could have died by any of them, but she was using a weaker Wanda, bro. She was using a weaker version of
shares
herself.
this 838 reality with mutants, with the Fantastic Four. So some version of the House of M, No More Mutants moment may be on the way in the MCU. In the final scenes of this movie, Strange gets closure with Christine. He leaves America in training at Camartage and finally gives Sorcerer Supreme Wong the bow he deserves. And most importantly, he finally fixes the broken watch. The camera transitioning from the broken lens to clarity. But that clear vision proves itself a curse in the final shot of the film. The man is seeing too well with 3 eyes as the curse of the Darkhold lives on. It's a scarlet
This is a
letter for his
weird-ass
sins
ending, I ain't
and
gonna
a
lie to you.
new unhealable wound for the surgeon to suffer. Now, I broke down the post-credit scenes in another video, and we got lots of Multiverse of Madness
Kinda
videos
weird.
coming down the pipeline. So subscribe for more takes on this insane film.
Wait,
And hey,
he made another one?
welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Boss, and this is an
Tell me.
When your dream is me saying I'm discussing the ending and post-credit scenes of this movie wasn't clear enough because it will be spoiling the entire Multiverse of Madness plot in this video. So if you haven't seen the film and you need me to tell you this, go watch this movie on the biggest screen you can. It is amazing
Chad,
to
go
look
watch the
at.
movie.
I will stay here waiting for you. And thanks to Truebill for sponsoring today's video. More about them later. So Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has 2 post-credit scenes, but it's really the madness that comes before throughout this movie that we need to break down first. So
Ew.
in this movie, Wanda Maximoff, seeking a universe with Billy and Tommy,
That's
hunts down America
disgusting.
Chavez for her ability to travel the multiverse. In the opening scene leading to the death of Defender Strange, Doctor Strange reaches out to her for help, in doing so letting her know exactly where America Chavez is, and so she sacks Camartage, and Strange and America escape to Earth 838, an advanced utopian reality where they meet Mordo Supreme and the rest of the Illuminati. Marvel's Illuminati in the comics is a 6-member group of leaders like the UN World Security Council, in this case for superheroes seeking to best defend Earth. In the MCU, the lineup is Mordo Supreme replacing Supreme Strange. In this dimension died a hero defeating Thanos, we think. But also Captain Carter, this universe's first Avenger. Haley Atwell returning as Peggy Carter, playing a live-action version of her What If character. Maria Rambeau, Captain Marvel. Defender of the Cosmos.
Boring.
Lashana Lynch returning from Captain Marvel, presumably a Captain Marvel where
I don't know what it is. I don't like Captain Marvel at all. How's your day going? It's going well. I don't like Captain Marvel at all. From the comics to the movie, never liked it. She's so annoying. The way that she's like, just like annoying. She's so annoying.
She was irradiated by the Lightspeed engine instead of Carol Danvers. Then Black Bolt, leader of the Inhumans and keeper of the Terrigen Mist. Anson Mount reprising his role from ABC's canceled Inhuman series. Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic of the Fantastic Four, with John Krasinski actually playing the role we've all been fan casting for years. Head of the Baxter Foundation, where Christine Palmer works alongside Ultron Sentries. And then of course this Illuminati's founder, Charles Xavier, Professor X, leader of the mutants. Patrick Stewart returning from the Fox X-Men franchise, but here in his olive green suit and yellow hover chair from the animated series. So we learn how their universe's Stephen Strange allowed the Darkhold to corrupt his soul to shrunk by sealing black sheets and
tell me about the
soul. Two calls of the Darkhold opens a post call, but then America is welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Boss, and this is her Supreme of the and they need dreams. Realizing her, he screams. This leads to a post-credit scene where Strange is greeted by the sorceress Clea, played by Charlize Theron.
She is once she was in Hancock, bro.
Who tells him that he created an incursion and they need to fix it. She opens a rift to the dark dimension, and Strange, who now proudly opens that third eye, joins her unafraid. Now in the comics, Clea is the Sorcerer Supreme of the dark dimension, niece to Uncle Dormammu, who becomes a major partner to Strange and eventually his spouse. It was only a matter of time before Clea joined the MCU, and her and this movie's repeated use of the word incursion is super important, as it points to a possible Secret Wars crossover.
Yo, when Secret Wars comes out, bro, I'm telling you that shit's gonna be bigger than Avatar.
Heroes and villains are respawned on a multiversal plane called
and if that can't be bigger than Avatar,
in the recent 2015 version of the events, it was Doctor Doom who oversees this. In the original 80s storyline, it was the Beyonder. Now, there is a second post-credit scene with Bruce Campbell's cameo as Pizza Papa, a Papa John style pizza ball street vendor in the Illuminati dimension of Earth 838, whom Strange left cursed so that his left fist kept punching his own face. An homage to Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell's past work in the Evil Dead series, and Ash's infamous cursed severed hand that attacks him. Strange earlier said that the spell would last 3 weeks, and here we are 3 weeks later. His pizza ball's melted, the spell wears off, and he turns to camera with the meta declaration of, "It's over!" Now, if you're hoping for a multiversal version of yourself that's better with money, we'll jump through a portal to help you sort your finances out. Our friends at Truebill are here to help.
Yo, Truebill, give me like $20,000. 50. 100.
Episode 1, and in Spider-Man Far From Home, when the imposter Mysterio Quentin Beck claimed he was from Dimension 833, and then this dimension was 616, which now makes it pretty coincidental that Quentin Beck and Guterman picked the actual multiversal numerical designation out of a hat? Okay, either way, this means that in the MCU multiverse exists one universe, at least, where mutants, the Fantastic Four, the Inhumans and the Terrigen Mist, and Captain Carter all coexist. And things like mutants, Terrigen Mist, the Negative Zone. If they exist in one dimension, they can exist in others. Terrigen Mist in the comics is famously how characters like Miss Marvel are created. It seems like the MCU version of that is gonna go in a different direction, yet still, Terrigen Mist exists in the MCU, folks. Mutants exist in the MCU. X-Men are coming. Still not here, but they're coming. And if all these things can exist in the MCU, hopefully so too can living versions of some of these brutally murdered members of the Illuminati. Like, I imagine this might be a one-time reprisal for Patrick Stewart, but Lynch, Atwell wore those suits with confidence, my friends. And Krasinski as Reed Richards, notably mentioned.
People wanted Harry Potter to play the Wolverine. It's not bad a choice.
having a wife and children, referring to Sue Storm, the Invisible Woman, and their child Franklin Richards, a key Omega level mutant in the comics, and implying a lineage of descendants that will eventually lead to Nathaniel Richards, aka Kang the Conqueror. Actually, the recent news that John Watts has stepped down from directing the MCU Fantastic Four movie has led many to speculate that John Krasinski could take over as actor-director, as he's done an amazing job with the two A Quiet Place films and has previously expressed interest. Now, it remains to be seen if Krasinski will be the MCU's Reed Richards in every universe, or just this one and a different actor will play the character in the future, as the MCU at this point has shown how multiversal variants can be played either by the same actor or different ones. And that same uncertainty applies to how the MCU will introduce the X-Men. Patrick Stewart just seems like a fan service return from a beloved era, and maybe less like a harbinger of other past era X-Men and mutants that Kevin Feige will bring back. And other than Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool, there seem to be no other plans to bring back like Hugh Jackman or James Marsden or Halle Berry as of yet. The options remain open. But quickly on the Three-Eyed Strange and Clea. So Strange's third eye likely indicates that his soul remains cursed and bonded with those souls of the damned, and whatever evil spirits surrounded the Darkhold. Despite the Darkholds being destroyed in every dimension, whatever evil lurks through them, imbued into those pages from the curses drafted by Chthon, remain living in Doctor Strange. I mean, even after the climax of this movie, Strange seemed to be in a bit of denial about what lingering effects of his embracing the souls of the damned would mean for him going forward. And the fact that he's now at peace with this curse suggests that he sees it as more of a power, the next stage of his evolution, him facing his fears. So what awaits them in the Dark Dimension? Well, maybe an incursion resulting in Doctor Doom's Battle World and Avengers 5 Secret Wars, or maybe the guy who famously loves torturing the damned. Or since Kevin Feige recently confirmed Loki and the removal of that Kang variant,
yo, the second season's about to go stupid.
The initial cause of this madness and the hint of Reed Richards' lineage, the beneficiary of these incursions might be Kang the Conqueror. Again, a lot to talk about, folks, and my Easter egg breakdown of this film is coming to the channel tomorrow, I think, followed by days, weeks, and months ahead of us continuing to unpack.
Oh my gosh. Okay, spoilers are indeed done. I just had to know a lot about it. I honestly, from this video, he knew the same exact knowledge that I knew. But I knew more because he didn't know that his head got ripped off. So, I win. Aha. Bitch. Honey, sponsor me. Now.